What did your parents say to you as a kid that still affects you today? My father was a surgeon with hands that could repair a heart but couldn't fix his own daughter. I was 12 when I brought home my first C in math. He stared at the report card, his face hardening like cement. Mediocrity, he said, tapping the C with his index finger, is a choice. He didn't yell. That would have been easier. Instead, he pushed his chair back and walked away, leaving me alone with those 3 words hanging in the air. The next day, a tutor appeared, then another. My evenings disappeared into equations and formulas. When I brought home an A- the following semester, he glanced at it and said, better, not best. I learned to hide my report cards when they weren't perfect. By high school, I was taking all advanced classes, sleeping 4 hours a night, and throwing up from anxiety before tests. My friends stopped inviting me out because I was always studying. One night, I found myself alone in the bathroom, sobbing silently into a towel so Dad wouldn't hear. I stared at my reflection, hollow eyes, pale skin, and didn't recognize the girl looking back. The breaking point came during my senior year. I'd been accepted to my father's alma mater, the family legacy he'd been grooming me for since birth, but the acceptance letter felt like a prison sentence. That night at dinner, my hands shook as I set down my fork. I don't want to be a doctor, I said, the words rushing out before I could swallow them back. Dad froze, fork midway to his mouth. I want to study literature. The silence that followed was absolute. Then Dad laughed, a short, dismissive sound. A literature degree? To do what exactly? Recite poetry while you serve coffee? His voice was surgical, precise. We don't throw away opportunities in this family. Mediocrity is a choice, and I didn't raise you to choose it. I looked at him, really looked, and for the first time saw something beneath the perfectionism. Fear. Did Grandpa say that to you? I asked quietly. Dad's face changed, something vulnerable flickering across it before disappearing. That's not relevant, he said, but his voice had lost its edge. I couldn't let it go. I went to the attic that weekend while Dad was at the hospital. In an old trunk beneath medical textbooks and awards, I found a worn leather case. Inside was a stack of sheet music, yellowed with age, with notes scribbled in my father's handwriting. At the bottom of the trunk was a photograph. Dad, much younger, sitting at a piano, his expression alive in a way I'd never seen. When he came home that night, I was waiting in his study, the photo in my hand. You never told me you played, I said. He stood frozen in the doorway, staring at the photograph like it was a ghost. Where did you find that? His voice was barely audible. Why did you stop? I asked instead of answering. Dad entered the room slowly, taking the photo from my hands. My father was a practical man, he said finally. He said music was for dreamers, not doers. He traced the edge of the photo with his finger. I was accepted to Juilliard. He tore up the letter before I could even read it. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. My father, the man who demanded perfection, who pushed me relentlessly toward medicine, had once had a different dream entirely. So you became what he wanted instead, I whispered. Dad's eyes met mine, and I saw something break in them. And now you're doing the same thing to me. He sat heavily in his chair, still holding the photograph. I thought I was protecting you, he said. From what? Being happy? The words came out sharper than I intended. Dad flinched. From struggling, from uncertainty. He set the photo down carefully. But I see now what I've really done. 3 days later, Dad came home with a stack of brochures, all liberal arts colleges with strong English programs. As he spread them across the kitchen table, his hands moved with the same precision they used in surgery, but his face was different, lighter somehow. He reached across the table and took my hand. Don't make my mistake.